Welcome into the official. We got the whole team here after a week off. Earlier this week, we looked at kind of the landscape of high school football right now, who's popping off, who is falling, and who we thought we were, both good and bad. Go back and check that episode. And also like and subscribe to this episode of The Official. And what we're going to do this time is look at guys who might be popping this year based on stats. So maybe guys who were a little bit underrated, guys we didn't talk about this summer, and then some 3-star and below who might be really emerging based on their production so far in their senior season, because this is talking about the class of 2025. So number one, I want to bring up a guy who really just stood out to me because I basically filtered the big stat sheet we have. Thank you, Matt, for putting that together. But for running backs, and I wanted to see who's caught the most passes as a running back. And there's one guy who's caught at least like 12 more than the next guy. And that is Javen Gordon, who is committed to Duke. He's a running back, pretty decent, size. I think he's right around 200 pounds. But really a 3-star guy, not a lot of fanfare. We haven't really talked about him at all. But I really like that receiving profile. By far the most catches of any running back in the country this year that we have stats for, which means they have to have max prep stats, and I think they have to have a 24/7 profile. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
24/7 composite rating.
A composite rating. But he's got some decent jump numbers, high jump over 6 feet, and he's a 5'9" running back, so that's pretty good. A 500 squat, so he's strong in the lower body. He's a B-ball dunker. David unearthed that for me today. So he's got some things we like. We don't have a star index rate. Oh, no, we do have a star index rating. I think it's middle of the road for him. Nothing too phenomenal. But when you look at his tape, and was the point, he is running real routes. He is motioning out from the backfield. He is lining up wide. He is doing full routes. Looks like he could have a very real route tree. And then as far as the tape, I mean, he's kind of bursty, kind of patient. I wouldn't say he's spectacular on the ground, but maybe a guy who could be useful, especially in that pass game. Just kind of an interesting name. 3-star dude going to Duke, but an interesting name, Javen Gordon. And I want David to talk about JP Powell. This guy is kind of seeing a bit of a meteoric rise, I would say, over the last month. All of a sudden, Georgia Tech running back, possibly reminiscent of a previous Georgia Tech running back who came out of nowhere and is now one of the best running backs in the NFL, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, he just entered the On3 300. So he's been a riser this year so far, but he's a 4-sport guy. Squats 500 pounds, benches 325, I think he's a late bloomer. I think physically, this past track season, he had a bunch of times under 11 seconds, a 10.78 100 meter. I did see a 10.44 100 meter, but I don't know. It seemed a little sketchy if that was like verified or not, but he's been super efficient, about 13 yards per carry, also doing some damage in the receiving game with 10 catches, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns, also has a kickoff return touchdown in 3 games. But he's twitched up guy, pretty good size. I think it looks like he grew an inch or two over the last, I think he's around 5'11", probably 190, really well put together. I think he'll get to that 205, 210 area. So I think he's pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely a name to know. And if he sticks with Georgia Tech, I like what Jamal Hayes is doing there, but this feels like the kind of guy who might get some late offers and wind up at a bigger program than that. I like Anthony League. I don't know why. I think he was averaging, had decent volume and then was averaging right around 10 yards per carry. So I hadn't heard that name, but, top 20 or 30 in rushing attempts, and then that nice average per rush. I just wanted to check him out. But I kind of liked what I saw. Over 200 pounds. I thought he was patient with some nice burst. And then 2 for 44 receiving in 4 games. Probably not much there. But going to Cal, where Jaden Ott will probably be gone soon. And Cal Twitter is a real delight. So, I like the Cal Bears and what they're doing right now. But I thought he just looked like a decent runner, Anthony League. Tristan Glass, Colorado State. Tall and lanky, 3-sport guy. 20 yards per reception. So this is a G5 guy, but watching the tape, I thought he had really good yak ability. For a guy of that size, that's always pretty fun. I mean, some nice little like stop on a dime and let the defender fly past you and then continue to go upfield. I thought he had some nice moves on tape. And then he stuck out for me on the stat sheet because decent amount of receptions plus 20 yards per reception is what I'm kind of looking for to kind of cherry pick some guys off the stat sheet. And then David loves guys who trains with margin hooks, who apparently he does. So we like that. Matt, Terry Shelton, talk to me about this guy. I had not really heard this name before, but looking like he might be a guy who pops in the model once we get it all plugged in.
Yeah, I think he is in the model. He just has limited data, but super long, super tall wide receiver. Starting off pretty well this season. 15 catches for almost 400 yards. I don't have his touchdowns. I think there's a typo on the sheet here. But still performing very well here. 6'9" wingspan, something you'd love to see. Definitely more a guy who was more of a basketball prospect at one point, moved over to football, and I think he looks really good, really smooth, natural moving guy for someone who was so tall.
Awesome, yeah, he's an interesting guy going to Arizona, which has a decent offense going on right now. David, Quentin Gibson, guy I think that you added here to the sheet. Looking like a G5 sleeper type that we want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's going crazy. I was watching the DeSoto game. I watched that full game, and he had like 200 yards and like 4 touchdowns. He has 20 receptions, 503 yards at 25 yards per reception and 10 touchdowns in just 3 games. He's played against the 6th strongest strength schedule. Yeah, they also scrimmaged Allen too, and he killed Allen too. I mean, I know it's a scrimmage, so I don't know if everyone's trying 100%, but regardless, I don't know what to say. Like he's 5'8", 165, so he's most likely a G5 player, which I hope he is. TCU just offered him. I kind of would rather have him go G5 and just like kind of dominate there for fantasy purposes, but with every 5'8", 165 guy that plays super fast, I'm going to say he's the next Tank Dell. That's what he is. So there you go.
All right. Perfect comp. And then Savion Taylor, again, I think it's a guy that you added, David, so I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, but he seems a little bigger, 6 feet, 200 you have here. And why do you like this guy? Why is he popping for you?
I marked him down because he actually has reason to be somewhat overlooked because he missed last year with the torn ACL, but the services are a little behind on his size. It looks like he lists himself at least at 190. I've seen 198 to 201 area, so he's a thicker guy that can play outside, inside. 3-sport guy, has basketball, volleyball background. But his production through 4 games is really impressive. 45 receptions, 672 yards, 6 TDs. And so he's averaging over 11 catches per game. He also is teammates with Isaiah Dillon, who is committed to Fresno State. He has like 5 times the production as he does right now. So from a production standpoint and like from a build strength standpoint, he's pretty interesting. So I think teams are most likely just monitoring his health and deciding whether they want to make a move on him, but he's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I love the context that you guys bring to this show. Torn ACL, there's a reason why he wasn't highly recruited, highly rated, and now popping off now that he's healthy. So really nice context background there. Okay, big finish here. We're going to talk about in-season offers because ultimately it may not matter what we think, but when big programs are thinking the same thing, it is potentially actionable. A guy we talked about in the beginning of the show, Jaron Sagapolitele, getting a Utah offer in season here. I think currently committed to Cal. We'll see if that sticks now that he's rising. But being monitored also by USC, Oregon, Notre Dame. Those are some big names there. So he's starting to really pick up steam. Antavius Richardson, not sure who added this, but go ahead and speak up if you added it. What do you like about him? Because I'm not sure we've talked about him.
Yeah, I added him on there. He's like a 6'6", 6'6", somewhere in there, 175 guy, but just super fast. I don't know. He reports like 4.3 40s. So you don't really know, but he is fast. Definitely fast on tape. You can tell. Plays like lower level Georgia, I believe, but he plays quarterback basically. Kind of like a wildcat guy who's running around, but he's got some pretty big offers so far this year: Alabama, Louisville, Notre Dame, UNC, UCF, and Duke. So I think he's probably going to play receiver. I get a little weird. I don't really know how to handle that because he obviously doesn't play receiver. So he might be someone that is just a guy to monitor, just a name to know when he starts to develop as a receiver.
Okay, great. And then we've got Jalen Cooper and Isaiah Mizell, both getting Notre Dame offers recently. These are both some of the higher producing receivers in our database for the 2025 or 2024 season. Mizell really high up there in terms of yards and production. Brother of Aiden Mizell at UF, who was a year 1-0 and not really doing a whole lot now. Of course, that whole offense is not doing a whole lot. Hard to tell, but kind of a straight line guy, at least Aiden was. And then let's just move on down to Vander Plug, maybe the best name in high school football. I'm not sure. Vander Plug, a tight end. I mean, that is an incredible tight end name for sure. Also just happens to be leading our database right now, which, of course, again, is guys with a 24/7 composite ranking and stats on Max Preps. But he's looking at, I believe, 30 receptions for 511 yards. That's 17 yards per reception for a tight end. He's about 225, committed to Washington. However, recently picked up an Alabama and an Oregon offer. So that senior season is starting to get him some big boy offers. Bama, of course, the biggest of the boys. So I like Vander Plug, interesting guy, great name, and we'll have to kind of maybe watch the tape, dive into him a little further because he's a tight end we have not really talked about. Okay, I think that kind of wraps it up. I'll give you guys any last minute things, anybody I didn't cover. We went through a lot of names, but we did come in under time. All right.
I think we're all good.
Good to go. Like and subscribe to the official. We're going to keep doing this during the high school season because there's so much to keep up with, and that's what we want to do is keep you guys all up to date. Stick with us on the official. We'll see you next time.